The People's Business is made possible by our partners, Solar Dynamics, the most efficient energy systems.
A very good evening to you. I'm Ryan Broome with this edition of The People's Business, where we're looking at the topic, A Season of Emancipation, A Deeper Understanding. Now, the Season of Emancipation started back in April under the theme Reimagining the Past, Celebrating the Future. And since then, there have been a number of events that have taken place in keeping with the season. And we're going to find out from an esteemed panel tonight just how that season has been progressing and what is left in store in the remainder of the Season of Emancipation. To help me do that, we have with me the Program Advisor, Reparations and Economic Enfranchisement with the Division of Culture, Mr. Rodney Grant. We have Dr. Deryck Murray, the Director of the Center for Hybrid Studies, and Mr. Suleiman Bulbulia, the Muslim Chaplain of the University of the West Indies. We're back with the discussion segment of the program right after this break.
Shower in the morning, shower in the evening, or take a fresh at night. Enjoy a warm shower with Solar Dynamics, you feel alright. Comfort, safety, temperature guaranteed. Long service, fulfilling your every need. Take a shower in comfort and no more upstream water touch you. Solar Dynamics is the best for you. Save on electricity, be environmentally friendly. Solar Dynamics is the one for you.
Welcome back to this edition of The People's Business, where we're discussing tonight the Season of Emancipation, trying to get a deeper understanding, because we know with crop over as part of during that season that tends to usually take up a lot of the oxygen. So we want to dig a little deeper to find out about the significance of the Season of Emancipation. And I'm going to start with you, Mr. Rodney Grant. Where are we now in the season? I know that a number of events have already happened and that there's some more to come both this month and next month. Tell us though, where are we now with the season? How have the events been going?
Thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and good night to you and to the rest of my panel, my fellow panelists, and to the Barbados. Good night to you. Right, so we are, the next event scheduled on the season is July the 26th, the Day of National Significance. And, you know, usually that is led by the National Cultural Foundation, through the free concert, the free folk concert at Golden Square. That is again going to happen this year. After July the 26th, then we move to August the 1st, which is the significant day on the calendar, which is the Emancipation Walk, and I would expand on that a little later tonight, I hope. Then we move to August the 17th, where we celebrate Marcus Garvey Day. We're going to be having a business launch on that particular day to reflect the philosophy of Marcus Garvey and his concept of economic empowerment. The winner of that launch is going to walk away with $20,000. Then on August the 23rd, we're going to move. We're having a movie night. We're still working out some tweaks with that, but we hope to be having a movie night at one of the cinemas to reflect some specific element of Nelson Mandela, but we also want to hold on that day a special lecture in collaboration with University as well, where we'll be looking at the whole concept of the day to celebrate the amelioration of slavery. And then we close the season August the 27th, where we celebrate Jackie Opel Day, and we'll be having a music symposium at LESC on that day, and that closes the entire season. It started, as you rightly said, April 14th and runs right down to August the 27th.
Okay, and what about the events that have been held so far? What has been the feedback response been like from members of the public?
Well, it's been good. We kind of shifted the focus this year, because we recognized that we needed to step back a little bit and reflect and focus a bit more on the educational component of what we're doing, to get Barbadians, you know, to have a deeper sense and deeper understanding of emancipation, what it is that we are doing, what it is that we are hoping to achieve as a division of culture and as a government. And to also keep to promote the concept that the season of the crop over season actually falls within the season of emancipation, and that the season of emancipation is the season in which crop over stands. And thanks Barbados to to reflect on this and to understand why, because all that we do in terms of celebration really is to reflect on that concept of emancipation. We really are celebrating that moment when slaves were set free. So August the 28th, we looked at National Heroes Day. That went really well. What we did with that is kind of decentralize it, and we partnered with the parish independence committees, and we had activities in every parish across the country. So that helped us to kind of really reach more people. We wanted to get into more communities, share the message, get people to understand. We're getting there slowly. It's not a challenge that we're going to solve overnight. It's going to take some time in kind of reimagining, getting Barbados to reimagining the concept of a season of emancipation in which crop over sits within it. So it's going to take some time, but we're getting there.
And Dr. Deryck Murray, what would you say, how is that educational process going, would you say? Is it an easy one? What are some of the challenges?
Well, it was never going to be an easy one. Remember that this is a couple hundred years of programming that we're trying to reverse. And we are at the stage we achieved emancipation in 1838. That was physical emancipation. But then we had to set about the task of mental decolonization, mental emancipation. And that has been a process. All of our national heroes represent the process of emancipation, mental decolonization. And our education system represents that. But now we need to go a bit deeper. And it's extremely difficult to have people change a worldview that they've been programmed into for several years. So we've been going, my responsibility for this year has been to build awareness in the schools, to find a way to get children from primary to secondary school understand the meaning of emancipation, and to understand the reason for the season of emancipation, and to just be aware that there's something called Emancipation Day and why there's an Emancipation Day. So thus far we had a very good response in the schools. We shouldn't underestimate the ability of our children to grasp some of these concepts. And for the time that we were in the school, which was fairly difficult because, as you know, this period, this last term in the schools is extremely compact for the schools, with exams and so on. But for the time that we had, we were able to get an extremely good and sometimes surprising response from some of the very youngest children.
Okay, and what would you say are, in terms of the school levels, though, where do you find a greater uptake in terms of primary or secondary or both, or is it easier to reach out to one more so than the other?
No, it was the only constraint was time in terms of the schools to accommodate additional programs in the schools. But the primary school children, the challenge is to develop a message that is appropriate for the level that they're working at. And the primary school children, for example, at one school, I asked, who's aware of busser? Almost everybody's aware of busser. They're aware of the idea of emancipation. But then we go deeper in terms of, what was the Busser Rebellion all about? What was the process of emancipation all about? And I would say that the children are extremely engaged and interested in learning these things. The challenge is always to develop a way of delivering the information that they could identify with and that would resonate with them. So I would say from primary to secondary, we have equally engaging, we have equally engaged students, and we are very satisfied with the way that they receive some of the information, because sometimes we're inclined to think that we should always try to engage children with entertainment. And that wasn't necessary in some cases. Sometimes cultural performances and with very serious messages. There's one drama production that we did with Coffee from the 1675 plot, and that was very well received by the children. But in doing that, we also delivered the information about the reason that we need to remember emancipation and celebrate.
Okay, I'm gonna welcome Mr. Bulbulia now into the discussion. Mr. Bulbulia, I want to get your perspective on the season and the significance from your perspective, from your end.
Good evening, fellow panelists, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I'm extremely happy to be here because I see the season of emancipation as embracing all Barbadians, and I think that this has been the thrust of the Division of Culture over the last few years to ensure that we bring everybody on board with the season of emancipation. And I think that it is important that we look at it, we explore it, and as Deryck was just mentioning, that we go into our schools and have our younger future generations have a greater understanding of what emancipation is about. I don't see it as just one day, and I think unfortunately over the years it was looked at as one day, August 1st. But now that we have a season of emancipation that started in April and moving on to even beyond August 1st into August, it gives us a greater window of engage more persons into the conversations that are necessary around emancipation that we as a people need to embrace and to look at and to explore and to unpack. And so I am extremely happy to be part of this process. The Division of Culture has called in the faith communities to get involved, and we've had meetings with the Division of Culture among the different faith communities. That's how we can also play our part in letting our congregations know and our followers know that, to be part of the emancipation program this season. And so we're happy to be here as well in this conversation.
Okay, that means you'll be part of the service that is the upcoming service, that part of that as well?
Yes, we are going to be involved in all the activities.
Okay, I want to go back to Dr. Murray quickly. I realize that Africa Day has become kind of a popular thing in the schools. Do you find that is a good gateway, or has been a good gateway in terms of engagement, kind of tying the two together, obviously linking and bringing that perspective into what you wear, what you do, what you see, etc.?
Well, African Liberation Day, which is now called Africa Day, has always been an important day for the Pan-African community, but now for the schools as well. But that brings me to an important point that has been problematic. There's a view that we should not be having things like Black History Month or the season of emancipation or the day for emancipation, because as Black people, we should be conscious and celebrating these things every day. But what I think slips a lot of people is that we virtually celebrate our history, our Pan-Africanism, our Blackness almost every day in Barbados from the beginning of the year right down until the end. So starting in February, we have Black History, African Awareness Month, then we go into the season of emancipation, and then there's Kwanzaa at the end of the year. So African Liberation Day or African Day is really the climax of a year-long set of work that teachers do with students to prepare them for their African awareness and for that day. And so there's the critique that they only put on, African wear, and they don't know what they're really doing, and they haven't been schooled in what they're about. It's really not accurate, because there's some hardworking teachers who spend all year explaining to the students, this is what it means, African Liberation Day. This is what emancipation means. This is what the season of emancipation means. And so when you see these students walking in a parade on the streets for Africa Day in their African wear, it's not just the wear and that day that is the focus, just like the season of emancipation, it's an entire season and an entire term year's work by the teachers.
Okay, and Mr. Grant, I realize that we've been forging or making those ties that we have with Africa a lot closer, with the country a lot closer, and the countries within Africa itself, we've been touching base in a lot of ways. I know that there was an engagement where the students were able to virtually connect recently. How are those initiatives going? Do you find that those are also helping to lay the groundwork and kind of give the students a greater sense of seeing and touching and interacting?
Well, yeah, Ryan, this is absolutely important. And that particular activity we were talking about was Africa Day, which was led by the National Library Service. And we connected with Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, and we also had children connect from Jamaica as well. And why this was important, because, I mean, we can't talk about a season of emancipation, we can't talk about the enslaved, and, you know, without also reaching out and having that connect with Africa. I mean, that's absolutely important. And when we talk about reimagining the past and celebrating the future, this is a lot of what we're talking about. To have to celebrate the future and reimagine the past is up to our youth. And they have to be able to get a deeper sense of what Africa really is about, you know. And there's been a lot of myths, there's a lot of mistruths that have been, you know, floating around about Africa and what happens on the African continent. And these direct connections, because I think one of the things we were hoping to formulate out is this connection that happened on Africa Day, was that children form long-lasting relationships, you know, the old-time kind of pen pal style. And in this way, they will continue to talk to each other, share cultures and knowledge about what happens within each country. And in that way, we begin to break down a lot of the myths at the primary level. And for sure, our focus this year on the schools in particular was very strategic, because we recognize, look, to bring the nation along, we have to bring the children along. And, you know, there's an old saying, a little child shall lead them. And if you can get the children really, you know, moving forward with the right examples, then maybe we can do it the other way around and let the children lead the charge. But we felt it was really important to re-emphasize, to refocus the whole concept of building out emancipation around our children, to get them to get a deeper sense of what emancipation is about. And within the movement, you know, there's a lot of learning movements about rediscovering their own culture, rediscovering their identity, what it is that, you know, when you see certain elements of their culture, you don't scoff at it or you don't laugh at it. You get to understand and have a deeper respect and an understanding about, you know, these simple things that we take for granted. You know, so I think we're moving in the right direction. I think we haven't gone there yet. We're a long way from the end of the road, but I think we're on the right direction to stay with the schools, both primary and secondary, and bring the country along gradually, because this is going to be a long journey. And I always say that slavery was a process, and therefore emancipation has to be a process as well. Freedom is a process. It's not a one day, one moment event.
Are you aware whether any of the students have been maintaining those relationships and keeping that close connection that was established on that day virtually?
Well, not as yet. And like we did last year, what we would do at the end of the season, normally we have an evaluative process to kind of give us a trajectory for the next season. That is why we are at the point we are at now, because coming out of the evaluation for last year, a lot of the Barbadians were saying to us, look, you have to step back. You all should really step back and focus on the education. And we listened. We listened to the comments that were coming from the people who said to us, you have to get back into the schools, you have to get back into the communities. And we did just that. We listened, we took their comments. So we would do the same thing again. So part of the evaluation process was also look directly at some of those immediate impacts that we were hoping to achieve in terms of the direct links. Because look, as a country, the country at the policy level is building out all of these different relationships across the African continent. Our Prime Minister is leading the charge, where she's talking about some South connections. And this is just an extension of that. Part of building out this whole South connection is deepening the understandings, deepening the knowledge, and breaking down a lot of the barriers that exist through knowledge and deeper understanding of Africa. and the context of Africa in terms of its trading capacity, its cultural capacity, its economic capacity. And, we have to get, even at the very basic level, in terms of understanding some of the very basic, intricate things about African culture, African people. We have to unravel these things and unwrap these things for our children. So that, we break down a lot of the myths. So, as I said, we're going to get there. We're doing it one step at a time. And we hope that after this, and we roll out our evaluation process, that again, Barbadians will participate. And again, we can now take it a next step further, So we will keep working with the Barbadian public. We will take the good comments into heart, and we will keep revising and reshaping it as we move forward.
Okay, thanks so much. We'll go to break, but before we do, I just reminded that you can be part of this discussion. You can join us 228-5562, 228-5563 with your comments or questions. We'll be back after this break.
Shower in the morning, shower in the evening, or take a fresh at night. Enjoy a warm shower with Solar Dynamics, you feel alright. Comfort, safety, temperature guaranteed. Long service, fulfilling your every need. Take a shower in comfort, no more upstream water touch you. Solar Dynamics is the best for true. Save on electricity, be environmentally friendly. Solar Dynamics is the one for you.
Welcome back to this our People's Business Live, where the topic tonight, the season of emancipation, a deeper understanding. I'll go straight now to Mr. Bulbulia. Just to find out from you, we heard what was said just now about the importance of education and younger people. What are some of the specific things that are happening in your community where this is concerned? Is that one of the things that's happening in terms of the season, that educational component?
Yeah, indeed, it is happening in a small way. It needs to happen a lot more as right across Barbados. And where do we fit into the season of emancipation is very important. And as Rodney was speaking about that reconnection back to Africa. So as you know, and historians have told us that around 30% of the enslaved that came from Africa were of the Muslim faith to the Americas and the Caribbean. So that's an important part of the whole season of emancipation, and what we are also part of as a community understanding as well. The people who came from Africa and reconnecting back to Africa is going to be very important for Barbadians as a whole. And part of that process, as was mentioned earlier, is the learning, but also the relearning, as Deryck mentioned. We have to unpack a lot of things and pack back a lot of information and misinformation that has come over the years. And so it's a process, it's a journey, as Rodney mentioned, and we are happy to be part of this journey. So yes, we are doing that as well, as much as we can within our community to kind of alert and make younger people aware of their own part in this process of emancipation, and among the enslaved as well. One of the things that our community has done within the last 3 years, as Barbados builds out its relationship with Africa, is to establish a relationship with Ghana and the Muslim community of Ghana. So we have now the Barbados-Ghana Muslim Alliance, where we are trying out to also build relationships in Ghana and hoping to spread that among other African nations. So as Barbados does that at a political level, governmental level, we want to do that at a people's level as well. And I'm seeing that in other groups as well. So that's part of what we're doing to build a more understanding of the season of emancipation and what it means to us as Barbadians.
Do you think that would translate to more visibility then from the community in this season and coming seasons as well?
That's what I'm hoping to, and I'm hoping not only our community, but widespread across Barbados. And as you know, there's a tendency to think that emancipation is lodged in certain groups or small elements of Barbados. It's not that. Emancipation and the season of emancipation has to be for all Barbadians, as I've been constantly saying, that everyone should start to understand what emancipation meant. And it's as Rodney said, it's a journey. I mean, 100 years after emancipation, you had riots in Barbados for people. It was not completed, and it's still not completed. 100 years on from that time, even we're talking about reparations. So it's a journey that is constantly continuing. We still suffer the legacy of the enslaved period, and emancipation didn't end anything. It actually is a process, and so I think all of that has to be brought into the conversation.
Okay, well, it was stated earlier that, and I mean it's a fact, that the Crop Over Festival falls within the season of emancipation. But of course, though, I get how I describe it. Crop Over Festival tends to suck a lot of the oxygen out of the room, so to speak, where a lot of those historically important things are concerned. Do you think that there's anything that can be done to further incorporate more of the elements of the season into the elements of the festival, or is that not necessary? Either anyone can answer that question.
Well, I'll jump in and answer part of it. It's been a while. I mean, see, a bit of history is useful here. August 1st in 1997. Emancipation Day was first celebrated in Barbados. That was only in 1987. In 2005 is when the idea of the entire season, the season of emancipation, was started. And initially it was implemented by the Ministry of Culture with two events being done by the Commission for Pan-African Affairs. And then the NCF was brought on board because the idea was to broaden it to take in the entire country. So the idea was that the emancipation message would gain more currency and more momentum if it was plugged into some of the activities for Crop Over. But it was also the understanding that Crop Over in and of itself is an emancipation activity. So in a sense, you can't really say that Crop Over sucks all of the air out. Yes, the parties and so on, but the idea of Crop Over is also an idea of we do Crop Over because we're celebrating the fact that we are free to celebrate. But in addition to that, the hope is that if you want to make Crop Over richer, if you want to have deeper themes for the Crop Over bands, if you want to have interesting stories to tell in your social commentary, if you want to have more compelling events that draw on our culture and our history and so on, then it makes sense to have running in parallel or in conjunction with Crop Over the whole idea and the educational components of the season of emancipation. So if we view it like that, then what would really happen, or what should really happen, is that Crop Over 10 years from now should have deeper, richer themes that have found, because the event planners, the producers, the artists and so on have found a richer and deeper well of our culture and resource to draw on to tell our stories.
Before you let the others answer, then you think something like how we had a nation building prize in the Pick of the Crop competition, for example, have things that are incentives, prizes like that are centered on highlighting the importance and the significance of the wider season. Do you think that would be something maybe that we could look at?
Well, I mean, there are 1,000 ways that we can build on it. But for me, the important thing is for the, 1 year Edwin had, I think Edwin actually has an emancipation song. I think Plastic Bag has one as well. And they were drawing on the idea of the season of emancipation already. Almost all of Gabby's songs are emancipation songs. So I don't want to see them as two separate things that we have to, almost have to artificially build one on, engraft one onto the next. What it is really is we're just saying to people to recognize that things that we Crop Over are not alien to what it means to have freedom.
Okay. We believe we have a caller on the line. Caller, good night. Please go ahead with your comments or question.
Hi, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
right? I think it's a great topic, and I'd like just to comment that I think that the true and real emancipation obviously must have to do with the emancipation of our minds and attitudes, and that ought to involve a willingness to stern self-examination and honest analytical thinking. I have two questions for Dr. Murray and one for the gentleman from the Muslim community. Dr. Murray, I'd like you to comment on what I perceive to be the severe injury inflicted on the self-esteem and dignity of black people by organized religion, which in many cases was actually an aspect of the colonization project. I'd also like to hear Dr. Murray's comment on the suggestion by some academics that the Anglican Church in Barbados should make reparations to black Barbadians for the church's historical atrocities. And finally, I'd like the gentleman from the Muslim community to comment on the claim that it is a tenet of Islam that persons should convert or die. And I'd also like to hear his views on the violence perpetrated against Mr. Salman Rushdie. Thank you.
Okay, the first question about self-esteem and religion. I think I've spoken on that before. I think it's important that we recognize that black people, whether they're Catholic, Anglican, Methodist, whether they're of the Orisha faith, they practice a tradition or religion that they were taught, right? But that religion is the only, sometimes that's the only religion that they know, that's the only thing that they've been taught. And so I believe that black people are spiritual from the very beginning. You know, I think it's difficult to find a black person who is not spiritual. And if the only thing that they've been taught is to be Anglican, to be Catholic, and so on, that's what they will be. I would not want to throw the baby with the bathwater, because we have elders who have drawn strength from the spiritual foundations, whether it be Islam, Christianity, African traditional religion. But I also want to acknowledge that some of those religions, Christian religions, have also been used as tools and weapons against the very people that they were supposed to save. I think that the church, and I don't know so much about Islam, but I know that the church has a responsibility to examine those aspects of its history and those aspects of its current legacy that are continuing to be damaging to the self-esteem of black people. Things like having all of your images being of a white God, of a white savior, and not understanding the damage to the psyche of children and followers who see their ultimate savior as white. And especially when that white savior, that white image, is the impression of a European artist, I think their family. So that's in terms of self-esteem. So yes, there's work to be done, and I think the church has the responsibility for that. It isn't just religion, though, that is damaging the self-esteem. That's a pervasive issue that cuts across almost every aspect of our culture, from the materials and the images that we use in school to the language that we use in terms of describing ourselves. In terms of reparations, we have a systematic reparations movement in the Caribbean and in CARICOM. Initially, we are looking at nation states, but we are also exploring institutions that are responsible and have benefited. And those institutions have reparations to make, both in terms of repairing cultural and social damage, but also in terms of financial compensation. So that is so both in terms of both of those questions, yes, the church has some work to do. You said organized religion. I don't know that I want to spread it so wide. Almost every spiritual faith has a religious component. So that's my position on this.
Okay, all right, well, but we have to go to break. When we come back, I get the perspective of the other panelists. People's Business Live, we'll be right back after this break.
From Great Health Works, the makers of Omega XL, comes Strong Heart. It's a natural dietary supplement made with omega-7 and contains beneficial fatty acids which promote a healthy heart. A clinical study has shown that the ingredient in Strong Heart helps maintain 4 important biomarkers for heart health. Rely on your strong heart every day, because we all know our finest moments are still to come. Help take good care of your heart with Strong Heart. Call now or visit your local pharmacy and health food stores today.
Welcome back to the People's Business Live, where we're discussing tonight the season of emancipation, a deeper understanding. We do have a call on the line, but before we get to that call, I'm just going to allow Mr. Bulbulia, if he wants to respond or speak to the issue of just religion in general as in the context of the season.
Well, I thank the caller for the question, and it's an important question because in some cases there's a lot of misunderstanding, misinformation that happens when we speak to Islam and Muslims. But if you're trying to understand the faith and you're looking at claims such as what he is speaking to, you go back to the root, you go back to the basics, the teachings of Islam. And there's no teaching in Islam that says that there's compulsion in religion. In fact, the Quran speaks to there's no compulsion in faith. So we can't compel anyone to convert, we can't compel anyone to become a Muslim, and there's no such thing within the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad either. So it is something that has gone around for many years. We know the Orientalists have used it against Islam, but it is not a teaching of Islam that we go around convert people at the point of a sword. But it's an important conversation that we need to have as it relates to religion within the whole framework of emancipation. And I think that's part of the learning that we are having and the relearning of what role religion played. And in a lot of cases, religion did play a very important role in emancipation. And a lot of the slaves who were involved in the uprising had a faith. They were either the African spiritual traditions or the Islamic faith, and they had a faith. And they used their faith as part of rising up against the oppression of slavery and moving out and trying to bring down the shackles of slavery.
Okay, caller, good night. Please go ahead with your comment or question.
I'm saying good night to the good gentleman there. Question.
Please turn on your TV, caller.
Hello?
Please turn on your television. It may confuse you. Just turn on your television and go ahead with your comment or question.
It's turned down. The TV is turned down.
Yes.
I'm asking the gentleman a question. Where you remove all of these identities, basic identities from us, what is going to happen in the final analysis? Are you going to try to get them out?
I'm not hearing.
Yes, what happens when you remove all the identities?
I don't I don't know if we are moving to erase identity, but I want to go back so that we don't go off topic a little bit, and to reiterate the fact that when we celebrate the season of the emancipation, we're not really clashing with ourselves. So in terms of the earlier question of the crossover activities really morphing what we call the other season of emancipation activities, I don't see it that way. I think Deryck was kind of putting it within the right context, in that what is happening within Crossover is really season of emancipation activities as well. So it's not a matter of we competing with ourselves. It's how do we now build out greater aspects of our culture, of our knowledge of Africa and our African retentions and African legacies within all the activities that fall within the season, whether they're seen as crossover activities or not. And the way to do this is really how we work with the schools. We have something in Barbados which we call intangible cultural heritage. which really embodies a lot of the important African retentions that we bear. I was at Popova yesterday with the kiddies, and you know the kids very ably represented the Barbados landship, which is a significant part of our heritage. And almost every aspect of it, the drums, the maple, the susu, almost every aspect of it. And these are important legacies and retentions that can emerge out of our African heritage. Now, we just have to do more of this. We just have, so when we think season of emancipation, you know, we think of it most of the times very narrowly. We put it in a box in terms of Pan-Africanism, but it's much broader than this. It's about all that we have retained as African people, that our ancestors would have left with us, is the food. So when we celebrate food festivals, it's in the drink, it's in the dance, it's in the music, it's in the spirituality, it's in the clothing, it's in all the things that we are trying to embody within that almost 5-6 month long season running from April down to August. So it's how do we build up more of this? How do we get more of our cultural retentions built into the festivals? Whether it is the dance, whether it is the music, whether it's whatever. And we just have to keep working at it. That's why I say the solution is with the schools, the solution. So it's more rather than just offering a price, but it's building out actually syllabuses. How do we build up these syllabuses in the schools, in communities? And we can do this. And it lends for a much richer festival at the end of the day. I know. And not only that, it lends for a more unique festival as well, because then we are promoting things that are very uniquely Barbadian. So our festival is not just reflective of, well, you know, a Brazilian or Trinidadian. What makes Jamaica stands out is our cultural heritage, our cultural retentions, so that a person knows when they come into Barbados Festival, it's unique. You don't see anything in Barbados that you could go to Brazil and see, or to Jamaica, or to Grenada, or St. Vincent. You know, when you come to Barbados, it's that uniqueness. And we can craft it out and build it out through our African cultural retentions.
Okay, I understand we have another caller on the line. Go ahead, caller, with your comment or question. Good night.
Yeah, Dr. Murray? Dr. Murray? I am one of your supporters. When you speak, I think that you speak very intelligently about emancipation, things like that. I want to ask you a question. The word is emancipation, okay? And why, after all these years, some of our people are still telling our black people that we are still enslaved and we are still enslaved by you, responsible by people and things. Then we have too many years that have gone than that. How can we, for all these years that black people have moved on to certain heights and have got education and done these things, and why people are still telling us that we are still indelible with the emancipation of white people? I don't believe it, not me. I'm Dr. Murray, I like to explain it to me because it's something that here when people get up in Barbados, we follow what people are doing. It's nonsense.
Dr. Murray?
Yeah, well, I want to answer both the previous call and this call.
Yes.
The previous caller asked about identity. You know, what will we be left with if we throw away our identity? I presume that he means if we embrace our African identity, what will be left of our Bajan identity? And it's something that people often worry about, and that's because they think perhaps that identities are exclusive, meaning that if you take up one, then you have to put down the other one. You know, but I am a Marie from Parkinson Field, from the Pine, from Barbados, from the Caribbean, from Africa. And you just add all of them together. I mean, identities are made up of a list of attributes, and you can add as many as you want to your attributes. Very few of them are mutually exclusive. So we will still be extremely Bajan. In fact, we'll probably be more Bajan if we do as Rodney said and seek out the culture that's ours and embrace it. And secondly, emancipation. You know, another caller will call in soon from now and ask the opposite question to the last caller, which is, why don't we focus on mental emancipation or decolonization? Because the last caller is suggesting that we are completely emancipated, that we are completely decolonized. But if he spends 10 minutes listening to people insulting one another, we still consider calling somebody black and ugly to be an insult. We still consider telling people about their big nose and their kinky hair to be an insult. We still give preference over ideas, inventions, um, stories, and so on of other people. We still give those priority over our own because our own is never seen as good enough. And that's the type of emancipation that we're talking about. We're not saying, nobody's saying that we're still enslaved to white people, but I can guarantee you that we're still enslaved to their ideas, to their paradigms, and to parts of their culture.
Okay, just want to look at some of the activities that remain in detail. I know that Mr. Grant is looking forward to giving us some further detail on the walk, but I want to go to the next one that's on the list. That's the Thanksgiving, the Day of National Significance folk concert. What is the preparation like for that specific event, and how is that going? You're on mute, sir. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I have a cough here. Is nagging me a little bit. Right, so the Day of National Significance is really being built out by the National Cultural Foundation. So at present, I can't speak to that. I don't have an update on what they're doing, but I assume it's going to be just an excellent production as what they had last year and the year before. We can always rely on the NCF to do excellent work. I could speak to August the 1st, which is directly being planned within the division. So for that day, we're going back to some of what we did back in I believe it was either 2007 or 1997, some time back, where we brought persons from 4 different points, cardinal points, towards the bus roundabout. So this year we are asking people to congregate at Parkinson School. We have a contingent coming down there being led by the Pioneers Creative Workshop. Also to congregate at LESC. We have a contingent that is going to be led from down there by the Israel Level Foundation. Coming from the north to congregate by the substation of the Barbados Light and Power. And that contingent coming up from there is going to be led by the Hillsville Youth Club. And the most easternly part of the Skymore Car Park, and that contingent coming down there is going to be led by the Dance in Africa group. So we're going to bring persons from those four areas, starting at 7 in the morning, towards the Buster roundabout. Now when they get there, we're going to have a military contingent coming up from LESC being led by the Barbados Defense Force and Cadet Band. They're joined together. And we're also looking to get the Barbados Youth Corps to join them as well, to bring a military contingent from the LESC right after the marchers get to the statue. Once at the statue, we will then do a refilling procession, a refilling ceremony, and right after that, we will go into the national anthem, and then we will have a significant landship maple presentation. We're going to have 2 maples, one on the east, one on the west, and a large contingent, almost 60 or 70 landshippers to the north of the Buster statue. So this is going to happen directly after the national anthem. And from there, we go onto the stage, and we're going to have a series of performances and speeches, celebratory, reflecting the theme, reimagining the past, celebrating the future, happening on stage. We're going to, hopefully, we're going to have speeches by hoping to have the Honorable Prime Minister there, if not, or the Minister of State within the Prime Minister office, Ambassador Commission. We're going to have the ambassador from Cuba. She's the new ambassador in Barbados. She's going to come and give remarks on behalf of the Cuban government. And from there, we're going to have several performances, Haynesville, Pinelands. We have individual speechifiers. We're going to have stick licking from some young children from the school, Milton Lynch Primary. We're gonna have a joint choir led by St. Leonard's. But that joint choir is going to be St. Leonard's plus is about 5 or 6 other schools. So we will have a choir of about 50, 60 young children. They're going to be doing 2 significant pieces, and they're also going to be backing Senator John King. He's doing a piece I don't think much Barbadians have heard to this point. It's called A Feeling Africa. It's being touched up a little bit by the musical director Andrew Loki from Foundation. He's toying with it a bit, you know. We're trying to spice it up a little bit, but it's a beautiful piece, and that is going to be closing the ceremony on the day. So we have a very exciting package of folk presentations, dance presentations, dramatic presentations, spoken word, all happening on that day. We also going to be happening a prayer session in the morning as well. We also have to have the Sons of God Apostolic Church joining us, other representatives from other faiths as well to join us on that morning to give blessings to the day, give blessings to the past, to pray for the present, and to also pray for the future of Barbados, since we are talking about reimagining the past and celebrating the future. So we're going to have an exciting morning. We're asking Barbadians to come out and be a part of the walk. And, you know, it's a time, Ryan, for us to pause within the season to reflect and all that is happening. There's a lot happening in Barbados right now. There's a lot of shows. We just had Junior Monarch last night. We had Kiddies Kuduma yesterday, Pandemonium today. There's still Pick of the Crop to come. There's still Kuduma Day to come. There's a whole world of facts across Barbados running from now right down to the end of August. So, you know, this one moment, which is so important to us as Barbadian people, is a significant moment, we feel, for all Barbadians to pause and to reflect. Because if not for this Emancipation Proclamation in 1838, who knows? Who knows where we would be? You know, all the things we have to brag about, all the things we hold so dear, our education, our healthcare, our economic development, all that we hold so dear. Where would we be? You know, so this is an important day for us to stop and reflect and to pause.
Indeed. We will have to pause and go to commercial break, and we'll be back. I believe we have a caller on the line. We'll be back with more of the People's Business.
When disaster threatens, it is comforting to know there's a team working to deliver credible, comprehensive, and up-to-date information. A team that is committed to serving you. A team that will be there before, during, and after the disaster. That is Team CBC, here for you this hurricane season.
CBC is celebrating 60 years of broadcasting in Barbados. 60 years of keeping our audiences entertained. CBC, connecting Barbadian communities.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Morning Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morningbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Welcome back to the People's Business Live, where we have been discussing the season of emancipation and trying to get a deeper understanding, and we're into our final segment. So I want to get some closing comments from our guests. First, I want to go to Mr. Bulbulia, though. Just get will your community be participating in the Emancipation Walk as well on the 1st?
Yeah, we're hoping that all Barbadians will get involved, including members of our community. And I wanted to add to that, there are a number of persons who come into Barbados for crop over, and perhaps this is something that they can also participate in. The visitors to the island can get involved in this. So this is something that we should also build out for visitors to the island, as was mentioned earlier, as an experience that uniquely Barbadian it can be, and so we should get our visitors involved. But yes, I would like to think that our community will get involved, and a wider participation from Barbadians across the board to get involved in the season of emancipation.
Okay, your closing comments or
Yeah, as I said, as I began, I'm happy to be here in the season of emancipation. I think as we build out that education process, we go into the schools and we start to relearn what we have more or less learned over the years.
Okay, gonna go to Dr. Murray now. Your closing remarks, sir. Where are we? How far do we have to get to where we want to get, and so on?
Well, that's a very difficult question in terms of where. Well, what I can say to you though is that this is 18 years since the season of emancipation was started. And I think that we are on the right track when we begin to build up from the bottom up. Legislation and policy from the top down is absolutely necessary, but it's not sufficient to get a movement going. And it's important to get into every school, to get into every community, to talk to people one by one about what it means to be free. Why we should struggle to maintain our freedom. And it's important that everybody be on board, because nobody disagrees with the idea of freedom, whether you be black, white, Indian, otherwise, whether you be Catholic, Anglican, from spiritual Baptist. We all agree that emancipation and mental decolonization is something that's important for all of us, and we should see it in that light. Although I should go on to say that Emancipation Day, because of the asymmetry and the particular legacy that enslavement of black people holds for us, is especially central for black people. But if we live together and other peoples have empathy and understand what it is to be enslaved and then to be free, I think that everybody should be there. If we are forging a new republic and going forward with a society that understands our history and understands the type of society that we want to build up.
Okay, Mr. Grant, you have the final say, sir. We've been talking a lot about the young people so far, but the adults are also have to be in there as well. And I know sometimes it's easy to forget with your everyday life and going on where we've come from, because we're so caught up with where we are today. Your closing comments, sir.
Right, thank you, Ryan. I can put it in a way that should be very simple for people to understand and build on something that Suleiman said. Imagine that you were on a journey and you came home and you unpacked your suitcase and you're ready to go on a new journey. So therefore what you're doing is unpacking the suitcase with the old clothes and you're packing it back with some new clothes. So imagine this process of where we want to take the country in terms of building out emancipation is your new journey. So you're unpacking all of the old dogma, all the old things that were holding us back as a people. And we were already on that journey in the past, and we're unpacking that. And what we're doing now is repacking our suitcase for the new journey of reimagining the past and celebrating the futures of people. And one of the bad things that came out of slavery was bad policies, and is one of the things that kept us back as a country and led to our underdevelopment. One of the positive things that we have to reflect on is a cabinet of Barbados ensuring that we celebrate our emancipation not only as a day, but as a season. For me, that is good policy. It's a shining light in the right direction. It's something we can build on. And, we just asking all Barbadians first to put aside the old clothes, pack some new clothes, join us in this journey. Let's move forward in terms of building out what is ours. This is intrinsically ours. This is our heritage, this is our culture, it's our country, it is our nation, and we have to do this together. Our development rests on our shoulders, no one else. Rests on us.
Thank you so much. Very well said. I want to thank you, my panelists tonight, Mr. Rodney Grant, Dr. Deryck Murray, and Mr. Suleiman Bulbulia. We have been discussing the season of emancipation, trying to get a deeper understanding, and I believe that we've achieved that in many ways. Thank you for being a wonderful viewing audience. I'm Ryan Broome. This has been The People's Business.